Welcome to Bitcoin Escape Plan. Will FOMC pump or dump Bitcoin? That's the topic of today's video. As always, we're going to start off with the 4-hour chart for anyone who is watching this early. It's a special little reward for you. So, Tuesday, right over here. So, most recently what happened with the 4-hour is the SMA right here, sitting at about 90.2K. We've interacted with it a bunch since Monday. We broke above to the Bollinger Band top over on Monday, which is what forced us to come back down to the average, and then have failed to get back above that 91.3, 91.4 region. We talked before about this level being important, 91.4. I think it was actually 92.6 and 91.6 were the fib pivots that we were looking for on the other time frames. But what does this tell us? The last 16 hours plus, really the last 24 hours plus, we've interacted with the SMA on every single candle, which is not good. That does not tell us that we are, really ready to move in one direction or the other, which probably means that candle will come somewhat out of nowhere. So FOMC is on Wednesday. I know that a lot of people feel like that is going to be a bullish news if we do get rate cuts. And while that's very possible, all I really care about is still the broader trend. So in the next couple hours, what would I imagine is going to happen for Bitcoin? Well, we do see the SMA starting to curve upwards slightly. Make sure you watch to the end of the video. We'll talk about the daily time frame. I'm going to go into the higher time frames next. But essentially, what you're going to want to pay attention to is what is the overall shape of the moving average, and then the Bollinger Bands are slightly sloping upward, which what does that tell us? It tells us that the price also wants to slope upward. So let's go to the higher time frames before we get into the daily time frame. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying these videos. Thank you so much for everyone who leaves comments and says nice things to me. It's great since I still am a very small channel. Anyways, so nothing has happened in December yet. That's what that candle means at the moment. Very, very thin, basically no volume. Now, granted, we're only 9-10 days in, but we have essentially almost the same amount of volume as June at the moment, which was also a really boring month. That, in fairness, did set us up for the all-time highs. So is that what's going to happen? Are we going to see new all-time highs? That's what I am seeing a lot of channels talk about, is that they think we're going to go to the end of this week, and then the FOMC meeting is going to happen, and then we're going to magically pump to 130. We're going to just magically pump there out of nowhere. I don't really believe that. Personally, if you've been following this channel or my threads for any period of time, you know that. I just don't really see any reason why we're going to randomly break out all in one big candle instead of it being a period of weeks for that to take place. It's very possible. What's this guy? This guy's 14%. Let's see. What does a 14% move from here give us? So 14% from here gives us 104, which is still below the weekly moving average and is still not enough to actually get us out of the hot water, which, as I've said multiple times, what I'm actually looking at is this guy right here, 106.7. That's all that matters. If we have a strong reaction to that, cool. Then ignore everything I've said in previous videos about us already being done for the run, and we will have permission to go higher. If we fail 106.7K after taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, potentially 7 to 10 weeks to get there, I hate to break it to you, but we're going lower again, and we will retest that 80K Fibonacci pivot. So what most people are expecting to happen after FOMC hits is they're expecting a big old candle, big candle. That's what they want. Even though we've been talking about rate cuts really since like June or July, people have been expecting them to continue cutting rates into the end of the year. And how quantitative easing works is, they don't print the money when the stock market is at all-time highs. That's not when they print the money. So while SPY is still flirting with new highs, essentially, that's not when they're going to print a bunch of money. while gold is still very close to all-time highs, is not when they are going to print the money. They're going to print the money when everything is bleeding, when everything is really actually painful, and that's when they are going to try and stimulate the economy. So it's not going to happen right now. So people who are waiting for Bitcoin to start rising randomly with this money that doesn't exist yet, which, just to put into context, and I have talked about this in other videos, and it is very important as a narrative in general, the stablecoin acts don't really go into effect until July, I believe, of next year, and go into full effect in January of 2027. So if I have to put on my tinfoil hat, what that tells me is we're going to be boring with Bitcoin until middle of the summer. And then we're going to get a finalization of wherever the move is, which I still think the bottom could be somewhere between this 37K and 54K. Right around there makes sense to me. Just based on previous channels, we've spent a bunch of time between here and about here. So obviously we're going to make a decent amount of chop at the 80 to 70K range. We're not going to want to give that up lightly, but it will drop after that. It will drop. Just the same way that I talked about for several months. I talked about how, they were making all those stories about how Bitcoin would never go below 100K again. I thought that was going to not happen until next year. I was a little bit early, but obviously that is what happened. So I think it's going to be the same case where they're, maybe they'll use the MicroStrategy story, where MicroStrategy, I believe their cost basis is like 73 or 74K. And they're just going to say, oh, it'll never go below what MicroStrategy paid. It'll never go below. Or are they going to have to sell? Are they going to have to sell if it goes below whatever, then it's just going to continue dumping. Sailor's loans don't go, I don't think they have to pay back the loans until 2027, 2028. So he's chilling. He's not worried about it. He's just going to continue to run the same playbook until it doesn't work anymore. So that's what I would be really paying attention to going into FOMC, is not anticipating a crazy move for Bitcoin. Obviously, we got to pay attention to what is the rest of the market telling us, which right now is not much. Everybody is pretty boring at the moment. Good old Pengu trying to make some type of move. Pengu's been a big loser for me. Sadness. Let's go to the daily time frame. Wrap this video up. I think this might be the shortest video I've made. We'll see. We'll see if I can get that. Like and subscribe. Tell me what's good about these videos in the comments. All right. Daily time frame. So this is pretty important. I've been talking about this for the last couple of videos and every day on Threads. We lost the SMA over here. We failed it over here. So realistically, this is the first time since early November where we have actually showed some strength around the daily SMA. And if you look, you can see it's starting to flatten. Hasn't fully flattened yet. This does not mean that it cannot continue dropping lower over time, but it is starting to flatten, which potentially will give us permission to make another move higher. But again, same thing that I've talked about a million times is what we need to pay attention to. Let's jump back to the 4-hour real quickly. Let's get our drawings up. So I've talked about this a million times. This is the anchored VWAP sitting at 84.8K roughly. 84.9, whatever. 94.9. And then this is the anchored volume profile right here at 96K roughly. If we have a poor reaction to right between those levels, I hate to break it to you, but we are going lower. Now, there's a very good chance that if FOMC goes the way that people think it's going to, that we shoot right past those, and then cool. Excellent. We have permission to go retest 99, and we will go through the same scenario that I already said, where we're going to need to go to 106.7. This is 105.7. So 106.7, I guess, is not a crucial one on the daily time frame, just on the weekly and monthly, which weekly and monthly is more important than the daily. So in the short term, what we need to see is a strong move past 94K to that 95 to 96 region for the anchored VWAP and the anchored volume profile, which that's, again, sitting right just above this Fibonacci pivot. So I think best case scenario for the week would be we're still boring today. Maybe we move a little bit on the news tomorrow. Probably then going to be boring on Thursday. And then maybe we get one more push Friday up to 94K if the markets are feeling frothy, if they're feeling good. But until we have a strong reaction above that level, nothing interesting is going to happen. It's just going to continue dropping. I know people don't want to hear that. I know they're not happy to have to acknowledge the facts, but that's the facts. Look at this. It started to flatten out a little bit. And what did it do? It continued dropping. We don't have any safety on the SMA until it starts to curve back upward. And is it curving back upward yet? No, it's not. It's flattening, and there's nothing preventing it from continuing to go lower, which will pull the price where? Lower. I hate to break it to you, but that's just reality. So, FOMC, will it make Bitcoin pump or dump? I think it really just depends on the reaction in 94 to 96. If 94 to 96 has a strong reaction, if we shoot right through it, like any of these days, we get a big old candle, which is very possible, but we're not seeing it. We haven't seen real volume since this day, November 21st. These ones are okay, but really just enough to get us back above the daily SMA. Nothing really that exciting past that. That is exciting, but it's not really that exciting when you look at the weekly time frame. Does that look bullish to you? Does that look bullish? Does that look like a chart that is happy at the moment? No, it does not. Way worse than March and April. We're still way below it in a longer period of time than we were over here, with no real signs of hope. We're already we've already broken outside of the Bollinger Band, like we did over here. But like we did over here, this was outside, and then it pulled it back up. Whereas over here, we're still just dropping. And we'll continue to drop, in my opinion. So, will it pump or dump? I think it's going to do absolutely nothing for the next couple of days. I think it's going to be really boring the next couple of days. And then all that matters, I know a lot of channels will, talk to you about hopium, and I probably should. I would get more views, but whatever. I'm just going to tell you the truth. All that matters is 94 to 96K. What is the reaction there? And then can we get an impulse higher to 105.7, 106.7? And can we close above it? Because if we can't close above it, then I hate to break it to you, but we are going to continue to break down lower. Let me know if there are other specific topics you would like me to cover, or if there's anything else on my watch list that you're like, Jacob, tell me more. Tell me more about Hood or Coinbase or Ethereum or Total 2 or Bitcoin dominance. You let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Jacob. Happy Tuesday. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.